Hello, and welcome to Resilience Radio bonus episodes. I'm your host, as usual, Irvin Eisenberg. I am owner of Resilience Occupational Therapy and creator of this show. I am diligently working on Season 2 of this show, and Season 1 has just wrapped up. I wanted to, while you wait, give you some material to listen to. So what we have is bonus questions from previous episodes. This week's bonus episode goes back to my interview with Bee Haven Farm, Genevieve. And she shared with me during the interview her personal experience with long COVID. So we talk a little bit about that, and we also talk a little bit about where Bee Haven is considering the long COVID health concerns of both her and her husband. Yeah, and how are you holding up with long COVID? And
I got dramatically better. It was very peculiar. I had a series of relapses and then sort of very slow progress in between. It's strange to say this, Irvin, but I actually felt really grateful that we had done a round of structural integration right before I got sick. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've had people discover they had cancer not too long after series 2, and there's a reason I decided to name my business Resilience.
Amen. I mean, it was really interesting to me, but I was literally in bed for like 90 days with a fever. And I was so grateful that I went into that somewhat integrated. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I was really grateful for that. And I'm sure that it made a significant difference for me. Um, I feel very grateful. I've been very involved in the body politics support group for long COVID, and I'm participating in 2 clinical studies that I was able to get into through that group.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many people that are stuck um, and not really moving forward in a healing process. And it's very interesting to me. Rick and I have actually got nothing but gratitude. There is definite long-term effects. Neurologically, it is pretty staggering. I don't think it's as obvious in conversational speaking, but when we tried it, I had to write a narrative, like a 7-page narrative for something recently, and it was excruciatingly difficult. I think that it impacts a lot of multiple body systems, and there's a very long-term reaction. And I suspect that we will find there may be certain things systemic in some of our bodies. I shared with you through our own healing work that my family has 2 strange genetic diseases. I don't know if that was related. I don't think there's a real sense yet, certainly in people that are looking at long COVID, and we're not doing a good job of that in the United States. They're not finding patterns yet in terms of why some people might have that experience and others might not. But what it felt like to me was my body had an inflammatory process. My body just couldn't stop fighting that illness. And it was really an interesting experience. It was unlike any other virus I've ever had before. I felt nervous system reactions to it right away. I mean, within 2 hours of feeling the onset of the illness, I felt pretty certain that what we had was COVID because it was such a distinctive feeling. And sometimes those feelings are still present. I'm saunaing a lot, and I think there's a Herxing that's happening. I wonder if there's going to be some Lyme's disease like components to this, if there might be places where the virus might be hidden and still active, or hidden but dead. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah, like
none
the
of us
Spire
know.
TD. Yeah.
So I'm kind of working cyclically with the herbs that we're finding out more and more about that do have some effect. I have a really gifted traditional Chinese medicine healer in California that I've known for a while, and he was working with COVID people right away. And so I reached out to him early on, and he's been amazingly helpful in terms of traditional Chinese medicine formulations that felt to my body immediately like the most effective. And I mean, they were treating that early on in the hospitalized settings in China, very heavy hitting TCM formulations. And
Mhm.
as soon as I started that, I felt it immediately in my body. Um, so amazing experience, but we're very grateful to have each other and to be here and to be doing as well as we are, and to have been in a life position where, we didn't lose a job because of this. We were able to hold up at home and, do what we could do when we could do it. And we're both feeling much better. Um, and I'm curious to see if what we feel still is something that's now consistent in our bodies, or if there will continue to be some gradual progression away from that. We'll see.
Wow. Well, what an experience. Like,
It was to have it early on. It was powerful experience emotionally and psychologically, just the realization that the medical world had no awareness of what this was. Um, and certainly to be experiencing it at that time when literally, you would call folks. I mean, we did call the doctor many times. Um, it is their frightening components to the illness. If you have even a moderate case, ours technically was considered moderate. Um, and nobody really knew what to do at that point. So there was an interesting suspension of reality there for us, which was just something I've always felt anyway, which is here we are and we're on our own and we're responsible for ourselves. And in a more acute way than I've ever experienced, that's what it felt like. The realization that nobody really knew what to do in Vermont, and they were literally saying at the point that we got sick, unless you can't breathe, don't come to the hospital. And we really agreed with that. We didn't want to go to the hospital, obviously. But I think that I certainly hope we see a lot more research as we come out of the shock phase and the attempt to control this so that our medical systems aren't overwhelmed. What an opportunity for study. I mean, I
yeah.
think it's probably going to be like some of the 2003 COVID situations where there is some long-term damage, but if you're lucky enough to get through it and not end up in those, you know, higher intensity cases, you're really lucky.
Yeah. Wow. Um, so where are things with Behaven? What are you?
We're still in it. I mean, our focus has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. I mean, we went from a much bigger commercial operation to now just being aware that we're never going to stop doing what we do because it's
Hmm.
what we love. And we want complete freedom and self-direction now, where we don't need to produce a certain amount of honey because that's what stores need, or this is how much bulk city market needs. We want to take care of our bees in the ideal way that we can do that. And I think for Rick, my partner, there's just an incredible scientific lifetime pursuit here. And he's so captivated by what he can do for our bees and what's going to work and what isn't. And how do you keep hives as healthy as you can in this crazy world, in this moment where they're crashing everywhere? Um, we don't want to buy bees. It's not what we want to do. We want to keep our existing genetic strain of bees as healthy as possible. Every year is a crapshoot. I mean, you don't know if you're going to lose 70% or 50%. That's the norms now. What you read about, even in the kind of tell all documentaries, is not honest, which is really interesting to me. We're still minimizing that part of the story. And I think that's just what we do, particularly in America. Um, but that's discouraging and sad to me. I feel like we should all be hearing the truth about everything. Um, but we're very motivated to continue. And our focus is not on producing products, but it's if we do produce some products, we want to sell it only locally and at the fairest price that we can so that people have access to the highest quality products they can have. We've pretty much stopped shipping or selling things to people that aren't local because we just want to keep it small and local. We were hopeful, I guess 2 weekends ago, Rick went out for the first time this winter and looked at our apiaries, and it's looking really good.
Okay.
So that could change. The next 6 weeks are really significant.
Mhm.
And that's oftentimes when most hive loss occurs, but we were looking good at that point. So our hope is that we produce some small crops this year, but what we're doing now is about our own relationship to our apiaries, and whatever we produce is a side benefit of that.
Yeah. Have you had any loss of smell, out of curiosity?
I have, but not like you've heard about the anosmia
Mhm.
in some cases. I actually had it much later on in the illness when I was beginning to feel more recovered from the acute illness phase, which was about 3 months for me. I still have it sometimes. And I am doing some kind of retraining of smell and taste. I definitely had a broad spectrum of phantom smells, really bizarre stuff.
Lauren from Aeromed has been she has been really looking into the studies on what's been helping people with that. It sounds like more severe cases than yours, and she has the like 3 or 4 essential oils and sort of recommendations for the protocol for what to do daily and everything.
I
So
saw that on a post of hers recently, and I was really excited that that was happening because what a profoundly sad thing to not be able to smell and taste normally.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this bonus material. If so, share it with a friend and subscribe via the podcatcher of your choice. While you're there, you can always leave a 5-star review, and that really does help out quite a bit. You've been listening to Resilience Radio bonus material. Take care.